Welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight. Happy Wednesday to you. President Biden has arrived in Brussels, Belgium. There he is. Careful on those stairs. And in just a matter of hours, he'll be meeting with NATO as well as European Union leaders. They'll be diving into some very familiar and, frankly, uncomfortable issues. Leaders who once scoffed at spending more on military and defense, who rolled their eyes at ending their dependence on Russian energy. Leaders who were called out by that foolish right-wing blowhard Donald Trump. Liberal ideologues who have realized now how wrong, how naive they were. But they'll never admit it. Energy is a big part of the reason Biden is in Europe tonight, and it's going to be quite bizarre to watch Biden try to peel Europe away from Russian energy and their dependence on it, when Biden himself subscribes to the same ultra-liberal energy nonsense that they do. It's going to be very interesting indeed. Nevertheless, making Europe independent of Russia and their energy is exactly the plan, at least according to Biden's national security advisor.
He will announce joint action on enhancing European energy security and reducing Europe's dependence on Russian gas at long last.
At long last. Could have been done in the last term if anybody had listened, but of course it wasn't. Well, it all sounds great, right? Get Germany and other nations off of Russian energy, just like Trump said a few years ago, 2018, I think it was. The only difference is Trump was actually able to replace Russian energy at that time with either American energy or perhaps Saudi energy. At this point, Biden has neither of those options on the table. The White House, of course, mortified to push more production in the U.S., and the Saudis, the UAE, won't answer Biden's phone calls. They are enjoying expensive oil. Of course they are. Why pump any more out? Let's keep it underground while we're making a fortune off of what we're bringing up right now. Why appease a very weak America? Who cares what America needs right now? What do we care? Who can blame them? It'll be entertaining to watch the EU put pressure on Biden tomorrow to ramp energy production in the United States, which is exactly what they're going to do, and try to convince us to ship it across the ocean to them.
Tomorrow, I will discuss with President Biden how to prioritize LNG deliveries from the United States to the European Union in the coming months. We are aiming at having a commitment for additional supplies for the next 2 winters.
You're seeing them scrambling now, aren't they? Again, Biden has made climate a centerpiece of his agenda. He's clearly dominated by green special interests. But if by some miracle he comes home pushing for more liquid natural gas to feed to Europe, and he might, just remember he wouldn't increase production to help the American consumer, to bring down your home heating costs, to bring down your gas prices. But he might do it for the Europeans, because that's how much they prioritize the Europeans over you. And we've known that for a long time. That's how politics seems to work in this country. Everybody before the American people. Now, the reason Europe is in this predicament to begin with is nonsensical liberal hysteria over climate change, something that has encapsulated the entire world. Europe could produce its own energy, it has in the past, but left-wing climate hysteria forced the European politics to move faster than the progress, to move faster than reality. And Europe did exactly what the United States has started to do. It got rid of its own energy to calm down a slew of hyperventilating crybabies who don't know or care how the world actually works. They sit in universities with pink hair their whole lives and complain. Wind and solar dependence are decades away, if they ever happen. They're decades away. Being dependent on wind and solar, being away from fossil fuels is a long way away, if it can ever happen. But the crybabies demanded change now. We want it now. No more fossil fuels. And they had a lot of energy behind them, and they had money behind them. So here we are. In this country, shutting down pipelines to appease the lunatics. Germany shutting down power plants, which emit almost nothing, so that they can instead buy filthy, dirty oil from Russia. It doesn't matter how stupid or illogical it is, so long as these pink-haired crybabies can't see the energy production, then it magically doesn't exist. The International Energy Agency has released a 10-point plan for getting Europe off Russian energy. Some of the ideas are about what you'd expect from an organization like this. Speed up wind and solar, Well, that idea should start paying dividends by, maybe 2040 at best. We'll see how long this war lasts. Bringing in more energy from Azerbaijan and Norway. Why wasn't that happening already, by the way? And a nice thermostat adjustment, my favorite of all the 10 recommendations. Let's keep it at 60 in the winter and 80 in the summer. That's the answer to Russian aggression in Ukraine. The way they speak tells you everything. Even in the face of war, they still are lying. They're still pretending. They're pretending that green is ready when it's not, because they'll never be able to just say, we got to get more fossil fuels. Take a listen.
With our new proposal, Repower EU, we can speed up this transition even more. First, by fast-tracking renewable projects, this is a strategic investment in our security, including hydrogen and biogas.
Oh, great. It all sounds so great. It makes for a great advertisement. Yeah. How long is that process? 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years? Realistically, I have no idea, and neither do they. As for Russia's energy, today Putin indicated he wants to be paid in rubles by what he calls unfriendly nations, the West. His way of subverting Western sanctions and also propping up his country's very weak currency. Get people using rubles again. That's exactly what he needs. The ruble ain't worth squat right now. But Putin is indicating he has not been pushed to the point of cutting off supply to the West. That's how he puts it. Of course, it is nothing more than a selfish move.
At the same time, I want to separately emphasize that Russia will continue by all means to supply natural gas in accordance with the volumes and prices according to the pricing principles fixed in the contracts concluded earlier. Unlike some colleagues, we value our business reputation as a reliable partner and supplier.
Yes, if there's one thing Putin is, it's very reliable, until he decides he wants to invade your country. Then things change dramatically very fast. Today, a clearer picture of the disaster that Putin has created for himself. Some very interesting information coming out from this war. NATO revealing 40,000 Russian troops have been killed, injured, or captured, or missing in this almost 1 month long conflict. 4 weeks tonight. In fact, we broke it 4 weeks ago tonight. It broke on this show just a little bit before this show started. An absolutely staggering number, though, 40,000 in that period of time. Remember, Putin only sent maybe, 150, 200,000 to Ukraine's border. 40,000 are out of action now. And there are indications that the troops that he did send to the border could be the best of, if not the bulk of, his best military assets. Also, an advisor who's been with the Kremlin for nearly 30 years has quit and left the country. Anatoly Chubais, was one of the chief architects of post-Soviet Russia. This was a very important man, breaking up the communist nation's top industries, which are all underneath the government, to be run privately, as they are now. Of course, by former high-ranking communist officials who each, I'll take steel, I'll take oil, I'll do this, I'll do that, and we'll all be billionaires. That's how it works in Russia now. Chubais kept Russia's assets in the hands of the Soviet regime and played along for decades all the games that post-Soviet Russia played, but he couldn't stomach what's happening in Ukraine. He wouldn't go this far. And that should tell you a lot about the morale inside Russia tonight.